And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with Tom Vasel.
Hey folks, today we're taking a look at Booze Barons, which is done by Overworld Games. I was certainly interested in this game because they've made Good Cop, Bad Cop, which is a game I really like, a fun, hidden deduction style game. And so I was very intrigued to try this one out. This one is about the Prohibition era. Let's find out more. So in this game, you're going to have 6 locations that are placed on a table. Like, for example, you might have the river caves, but there actually is 2 sides to each location, and they each have a different event that can be triggered. At the beginning of the game, you're going to be drawing off a delivery deck, and when you draw a card, it shows the symbol of the location. So this is the river caves, and you'll place them under that. So you start with 9 of these cards placed out there. And each player is secretly working for a mob. And there's 3 different mobs. Each mob has a different type of booze here. So good hop, bad hop, lying low, lager, etc. And there's some complicated methods in the book, but essentially you're going to try to have, if there's only 3 players, for example, you'll have 1 of each color. If there's 4 players, you'll have 2 of one color, 1 of each of the other colors, and so on and so forth. If you have the same color as someone else, you're on their team. The problem is you don't know whose team you are on because everyone keeps these hidden. Now, what players are trying to do is they're trying to get the most coins. Each player is going to get a standee pawn of whoever they are. They're going to get a card that essentially tells them the different actions they can take, and it shows who they are. And they also get a set of cards that correspond to the locations of their color. Now, at the beginning of each round, players are all going to place one of their movement cards down on the board and reveal them simultaneously, showing where they're going to go. As players place the different pawns in the locations, when they're finished with that, starting with the person who has the Booze Baron, and this will pass around the table, each player has actions they can take. One of their actions can be deliver. They're going to take a card from their location. Now, you can only take a card from the location if it has the beer on it that you have as your secret card. So when you do this, the first time you do it, you're going to narrow it down to 5, and as you take more and more, these will be taken face down, but players can see which ones you're taking, and if they can memorize, they can figure out pretty quickly which beer you are. You can also tail someone else. That's if someone goes to the same location as you. You can look at their hand of cards that they've collected for 20 seconds, and then you can either steal a card from their hand, which you'll place face up in front of you, but it has to have your beer on it, or you can accuse them and say you are a specific type of beer, and if you're correct, they're exposed, and you're also going to steal their movement card. And the third thing you do is you can activate the action on the card here. So, for example, choose another player. That player becomes the Booze Baron next round. Or on the other side, choose another player. That player can collect 2 delivery cards that match their booze type from any location. Here, tail the player seated to your left. Or on the other side, tail a player at any location except the river caves. That player may then tail you. So there's different things that can happen if you pull these events. Now, at the end of a round, players will pick a different movement card. The card that you play, you leave in front of you, so you always have to pick a different one. Once you play that one, you can take this one back. And once a player has been exposed, the play will continue. If you go through the whole deck of delivery cards, the person who has the fewest coins in front of them is automatically exposed. You keep going till there are fewer than 2 unexposed players. At that point, the game ends, and players will count up their score. They're going to count the coins on each card they collected. There's 1. Each movement card that is theirs or another player's is worth 2. The first 2 players to successfully tail someone else or snitch on someone else will get these cards. If there's fewer than 7, you only use 1 of them. And whoever has the most coin cards is the winner. Okay, first of all, I gotta say I'm not a big fan of the artwork in this game. It's okay. The characters don't really pop for me. Some of them have a little bit of a cartoon look, but some of them look like they're from a coloring book. I don't know. It doesn't bring this whole Prohibition era, Dick Tracy theme to life at all. So it's okay. The components are fine. There's a lot of symbology, and again, the theme is real thin in this one. You are trying to figure out who's smuggling what beer, but super thin theme. But that's okay. as long as the hidden deduction thing is there. See, this is a game that uses deductive and logical reasoning, and you're figuring out what other people do. But the fact is, it's way more on the memorization than it is on the deduction. I see you take them, I'm like, oh, okay, those are the 5 beers you took. Okay, remember. The next time you take one, okay, did they take that one already? And so you're trying to figure out, the game is like, woo, figure out who's on your team. Then work with that person, help that person out. Go after people on the other teams. But, I don't know, see, what happens is at the end of the game, your scores are combined with the other people on your team. If no one else is on your team, then you double your score. Okay, that works fine, but it almost feels, the game feels kind of just random. I'll go here to get a beer. I went there, I got a beer. I mean, it's like almost wrote what you do. So you're going to guess what someone else does. So you will guess either by knowing for sure, which maybe they take 2 cards and the 2 cards have only 1 match on them. And you say, well, you shouldn't do that. But that's trying to go too deep into this game. You're looking at all the cards and saying, okay, I can only go to this one. Or I can go to that spot. There's 1 beer there, but maybe someone else will go there. I'm last in turn order, so I probably won't even get that beer. I feel like this game has a cool idea. The idea of taking cards and saying, okay, they took cards with the same symbol on them. It sounds really cool in theory, but in practice, it was okay. I didn't dislike the game. The game is just, though, okay. And there's a lot of these hidden deduction games out there, and an okay one doesn't really cut it at this point. So with kind of a thin theme on the game, with artwork that's and then the deduction part, which I thought would be really cool, kind of being just barely there, and the gameplay itself, not very exciting at all, and the actions are basically the same. Tail this person, tail that person, do this, do that. So overall, just, it's okay. But unfortunately today, an okay game isn't good enough. Dice Tower Judgment, okay.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at Dicetowernetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.
Shut the door.